The IUCN is known for preserving wildlife that's in danger. Tell us how the Environment and Gender Index is helping that mission.
Well, IUCN is not only about saving the environment, it's making sure that natural resources are used in a sustainable way and that it will benefit both men and women. IUCN program, it's about ensuring a just world that values nature. So it is fundamental for IUCN that has been leading, for example, in the development of the red list to come with the development of the EGI, of the Environmental Gender Index, because it allows us precisely to ensure and to measure how countries are doing in preserving natural resources, using natural resources, and how this is distributed more equitably between women and men around the world.
I understand, Rebecca, that you've just done a study on the Environment and Gender Index. Can you tell us more about the results, please?
Yes, this is the first index to measure environment and gender variables at the same time. We've measured 72 countries across 27 different indicators in 6 categories. It was a year-long process. The results are that, number one, the gender data, sex disaggregated data in the environmental sector really does not exist across enough countries. So in areas such as forestry, energy, climate change, we don't have enough data to know how women are accessing resources and how can they be really part of environmental decision making. And so this is part of this effort. We also have some interesting results in terms of country rankings. Iceland is number 1, and we're really interested to see, digging deeper next year to see how they got to that place. For instance, they're the top of many of the categories, but there's a couple of places that countries sometimes don't do as well in, and that one of those is including gender in their reporting to the Rio Conventions, including the UNFCCC. So that's something that the European countries have been coming to us and saying, how can we do better? And that the index has really been having an impact. Many of the developing countries, some of them are surprising. Mongolia is the top of the Asia region, and that's really interesting to us. Yemen is 71 out of 72 countries overall that we're studying. However, they were the top country in the Middle East and North Africa on country reporting on gender and other areas. So we are interested in to see how they're doing better. And the idea here is to provide a snapshot of what's happening on this topic so that governments can do better, that institutions can invest in the right countries on these topics, and also to improve data and to improve action on this topic in the future.
Why is it so important to understand the role of gender in conservation? I mean, it's a pretty serious area. There are species being lost. Do we really have time to look at this? Why is it worthwhile?
The challenges that we have in front with what the world is suffering because of climate change and degradation of natural resources means that the quest for the conservation and the sustainable use have to bring together 100% of the population. Women and men knowledge, use of natural resources and knowledge of natural resources is different. Therefore, it is fundamental in this quest for saving the world to bring as much population, and that means the women and the men of the world, together to fight for the reduction of the extinction of species. And I can just give you an example. For example, in Mexico, a lot of the men are the ones that go fishing, but the women are the ones that receive the fish. And men are every day catching smaller species. Since the women are the ones processing, women are vetoing some of the smaller species and telling the men, we won't accept species of the size that you're bringing because this is having an impact in our natural resources. So if you don't involve women into these processes, and they can be incredible agents of change and making a better use and conservation of our natural resources. So it is not that we're talking about improvement in women conditions separate from environment, but what is the role of women and men in the use and conservation of natural resources at this moment in time that is fundamental that we act together.
What cultural challenges have you come up against? Because obviously in different countries gender is a different issue culturally. Is this really something that IUCN can dictate?
Well, IUCN has been working in all the countries of the world. We started, for example, the development of gender action plans related to climate change in the Arab world. We started in Jordan, in Egypt. We have worked in Africa and in Asia. The situations of women and men, especially at the community level, it's very much the same in a lot of the developing countries. I mean, you have seen the data from Philippines, the amount of people that are being impacted by climate change. So when it comes to survival, there's really not big cultural differences when it comes like we need to improve our living conditions. Of course, there are differences. There are differences in relation to religion, there are differences in relation to norms and patterns. But one of the wonderful things about environment is that when you come in with new initiatives that have not been tagged like feminine or masculine, I'll give you another example. If you have a butterfly farm, nobody has ever done a butterfly farm to conserve butterflies. So you can come in and bring women and men together at the same level to protect their natural treasury together at the same time. And this is something very unique from the environmental sector, in which you kind of take away this difference between what is the feminine and what is the masculine and put them at the forefront of the solutions for a better world.
That sounds great. Rebecca, lastly, how do you think you might roll out these findings to help other organizations?
Well, we actually have, we find ourselves really well positioned, having gone through a really long process of working with our expert panel and data experts around the world. We now know what data is there, what's not there. One thing we're going to be doing is creating new data sets that governments, institutions, NGOs around the world can use on women's environmental decision making at many levels. Also, how many the level of women's achievement in environmental related education areas. And we also, in the next round, will be taking the global level review to country level. We're going to be looking at some of these countries and wondering how they've done, and we're going to be analyzing what works on gender and environment. Why are these countries doing better or worse? Can we take specific examples and share them across regions, share them within the regions, and to be able to give people guidelines on how they can do better in this topic. And so that we think is very powerful, and we're pleased to be putting out something that is really the first quantitative and kind of scientific approach to gender mainstreaming, which is rare. So we're really excited about that.